You only understand certain things when your skin starts to sag, when the mornings come with more silence than plans, and the mirror starts to reflect not only time, but everything you've let pass. Aging is not just a biological curve. It's a brutal clarity, a continuous revelation of illusions that you swore were true. And no one, absolutely no one, prepares you for this. Little by little you realize that the world hasn't slowed down. It's you who has slowed down. And in this new rhythm you start to hear noises that were previously muffled. Regret, emptiness, longing for yourself. This video is not a consolation. It's a mirror. We're going to talk about 5 truths that only reveal themselves when time has taken almost everything away, except lucidity. And maybe, just maybe, it comes too late. You're still here. And that's reason enough to listen. Until the end, even if it hurts. Truth 1. No one will save you. You spend your life believing that, at the right moment, someone will come. Someone who will notice your pain without you having to say anything. Someone who will hold your hand before you fall apart. Someone who will protect you from abandonment, loneliness, and falling. But time goes by, and no one comes. People are too busy with their own storms, with their own escapes, with their own broken mirrors. And you discover too late that what they called a support network was made of fragile threads that break when you need it most. You start to notice this in the small absences, calls that don't return, invitations that stop coming, and that awkward silence when you try to say, "I'm not okay." It's cruel but true. The world doesn't stop for you. Life doesn't extend its hand to those who weaken, it just watches and moves on. And if you're not firm, you go with it, dragged along. It doesn't matter how much you gave, it doesn't matter how many you helped. There comes a point when all of this seems forgotten, because old age has this side effect. It turns presence into weight, and you go from being indispensable to invisible. But there is an antidote, and it doesn't come from outside. When you accept it truly that no one will come to save you, something changes. You stop waiting, and you start, perhaps for the first time, to stand up for yourself. Lucidity can hurt, but it's the only company that doesn't abandon you. Truth 2. Love changes places, and sometimes it goes away. The love you knew at 30 is not the same as the one you find at 70. It changes shape, its weight, its presence. Sometimes it softens. Other times, it evaporates. You start to notice this in your routines, the ones that used to be full of touches, looks, anxious waiting. Now they are made of prolonged silences, lukewarm coffees, and questions answered with a simple hum. Sometimes love doesn't die. It just gets tired of trying to survive in a body without energy, in a heart hardened by losses that were never buried. And sometimes, yes, it dies. And the worst, it dies in silence. Without screams, without fights, without explanation. It just disappears, as if it had never existed. But you know it existed, because you still feel its echo in the early hours of the morning when you sleep alone, even with someone by your side. That's when you understand, love is not eternal, and it's not always loyal. There are loves that leave before death. There are loves that look at you every day, but no longer see you. And that hurts more than any betrayal. But within the pain, there is a revelation. The most necessary love in the end is the love you cultivate for yourself. Not the selfish one, not the narcissistic one, but the silent love of those who have learned not to abandon themselves, even when the world no longer remembers. This is the love that sustains the body when the other person walks away. It is what remains when the rest is gone. Truth 3. You will regret what you tolerated in silence. You learn to swallow a lot of things in life. Words spoken crossly, humiliations disguised as jokes, indifference served at dinner, between one course and the next. You tolerate it, because you want peace, because you are afraid of confrontation, because you learned too early that complaining pushes people away, that demanding makes you difficult, and so you keep quiet. But what no one tells you is that silence also takes its toll, and dearly. It builds up. It turns into a lump in your throat. It turns into emotional gastritis. It turns into dull resentment. It turns into anger disguised as tiredness. And when old age arrives, it brings with it a more honest mirror. A mirror that shows you everything you accepted not out of love, but out of fear of losing. You start to remember the times you held back your tears to keep the peace. The times you gave up on yourself to be accepted. And you realize the bill always comes. And it doesn't come from others. It comes from you. Tolerating in the name of peace may seem noble, but if it comes at the cost of your dignity, it's just self-abandonment. Time reveals what youth hid, that silence doesn't always protect. Sometimes it condemns you to a life of inner invisibility, and that's when regret finds you. Not for what they said, but for what you didn't say. The only cure? Start listening to yourself before it's too late to answer yourself. Truth 4. Loneliness will become your most honest companion. At first you fight it. Turn on the TV to disguise the silence. Leave the house just to feel like you still belong somewhere. Talk to strangers in line at the pharmacy to remind yourself that you still exist. But loneliness doesn't go away. It waits for you to come back and sits next to you as if it knows that sooner or later you'll stop running away. And you stop because you get tired, because you understand that it's not your enemy. It's just a reflection of real life, the one that doesn't need to pretend to be company to seem valuable. Loneliness, when accepted, transforms. It stops being absence and becomes a mirror that shows how much you depended on others to feel whole and how much you forgot to be enough for yourself. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also honest. Because unlike many, it doesn't lie. It doesn't promise eternal presence. It doesn't pretend to listen. It's just there and allows you to hear yourself like never before. Loneliness teaches you what no one had the courage to teach, that the hardest part is not being alone. It's being in bad company with yourself. And when you learn to make peace with this silent presence, the fear of being alone starts to lose its power. Truth 5. Your body will scream for the choices you pretended not to see. You can lie to others. You can smile when you're exhausted. You can say that everything is fine when you no longer feel anything. But the body, it doesn't lie. It records everything. Every night you didn't sleep well. Every meal for convenience. Every relationship that drained your energy. Every medication taken without awareness. Every silence you swallowed. Every emotional burden you swept inside. And over time, it takes its toll. With nameless pains. With fatigue that doesn't go away. With diagnoses that seem to come out of nowhere, but that were built in silence, day after day, year after year. Old age does not create illnesses. It reveals. It lays bare what you pretended not to see. The cigarette that was just a relief. The sugar that was just a treat. The stress that you called a busy life. The bills that kept you awake at night, but that you never wanted to face head on. The body is wise. It talks a lot before it collapses, but you only listen when it starts to scream. And sometimes, it's too late. But not always. Because the same body that gets sick from neglect can start to heal when it is finally recognized. Not with magic pills or fad diets, but with the radical decision to respect itself, to take care of itself like someone who takes care of their last shelter. Because that's exactly what it is. These truths don't come with flowers. They come with pain, with late lucidity, with the weight of everything you tolerated, lost, postponed, believing you would have more time. But time does not repeat itself. You spent years running after life. Now maybe it's time to stop and look inside. Because even when almost everything is gone, there is still something that can be rescued: the dignity of living awake. Old age does not have to be a punishment. It can be a portal, a sacred space of reconciliation with who you were and with who you can still be. But only if you have the courage to face what you avoided your entire life, yourself. You are no longer young. but you still breathe. And as long as there is breath, there is a choice. If any of these truths touched you, write in the comments, "I'm still here." Because this phrase, said by someone who has seen time pass, is an act of resistance. If this video made sense to you, share it with someone who needs to remember that not all silence is abandonment. Sometimes it is just the beginning of a reunion. Until the next story. And may time not rob you of what consciousness can restore.